And are we ready with the surgicals? Can you just adjust the slide for her? Any queries you have, please write it down and feel free. We can answer whenever we have ample time for that.
Is it fine? Can you please adjust?
Yeah, that's better. That's better. Okay.
Okay.
Diksha, all yours,
Good
please.
afternoon, everyone. Thank you, sir, for this opportunity. I'll be discussing the surgical management of pediatric cataract. So the success of pediatric cataract surgery depends upon the meticulous surgery, a proper follow-up, and a compliance to glasses and occlusion. And for a proper and meticulous surgery, a good anesthesia team is mandatory. So the basic concept of the surgery is to clear the central optical area. And not just that, we also have to remove the scaffold for formation of visual axis of pacification. And along with that, the support for IOL has to be maintained, least traumatic, minimal manipulation, so that we can have better visual outcomes. Now is when to operate. So for children, doing a cataract surgery is not just a simple thing. The child loses his accommodation. He is bound to glasses for lifelong. So you should operate only when it's needed. So the cataracts which are lesser than 3 mm can be managed with refraction alone. And if we can ensure that the light is entering the eye in an undilated pupil, we should always put the child on glasses and follow. Whereas if the central cataract is larger than 3 millimeters, that is the pupil is being occluded, undilated pupil is being occluded, we should go ahead for surgery. The cataracts closer to the posterior pole, again because they're closer to the nodal point, cause more visual problems and hence should be operated. When retinal details are not visible for further evaluation, that becomes another indication for surgery. In cases with abnormal movement, again when fixation has not developed, we should go ahead early. And if nystagmus is present, the child is less likely to get better vision better than 6/12, again because foveal fixation time is less. Next is when to operate. Frankly speaking, earlier is the best, but for very young children, there are higher risks of general anesthesia, and at the same time, there's a higher risk of sometimes glaucoma if the child are operated at the age less than 1 month. However, we still do for ROP children, even for 10 to 15 days of age, we still do. But if there are no other such indications, that the surgery can easily be delayed till 4 to 6 weeks of life. Earlier for unilateral cataracts because of higher risk of amblyopia, while bilateral cataracts, 6 to 8 weeks is a good time. And for symmetrical cataract, second eye should be done within 1 week of the first eye. And in cases where there is difficult GA or systemically unstable patients, both the eyes can be operated in the same sitting as well. Now, why are we having a separate discussion for pediatric cataract? Because the surgery itself has many challenges. The first is the anterior chamber instability. Others are increased capsular elasticity, decreased scleral rigidity, again because of thin sclera, the higher tendency of intraocular inflammation and visual axis of pacification. Well, the aspiration of nucleus is very simple. There are other things to be handled which need more care. The very first thing is head positioning. If the head is not positioned well, we cannot aim to have a smooth surgery. So the head, before we put in the drape, we have to ensure that the head is parallel, the exposure is good. We need a head ring under the head and a shoulder roll to ensure that the exposure is good. So here we can see that this is the appropriate head ring for this child, and after the child is intubated, the neck support, we place the head ring. This is now followed by placement of shoulder roll under the shoulders to ensure a good exposure to the eye. So now the shoulder roll will go under the shoulders so that the neck is slightly extended and we have a better exposure. Besides that, we should use a proper speculum of appropriate size. If you're using too small or too large a speculum, there'll be pooling of fluid, and that will decrease your visibility. So once everything is done, we now start with the surgery. The first step is incisions. 3 incisions is what we usually start with. Side port should be 180 degrees apart, and first incision should be made with non-dominant hand. And if chamber gets shallow, you should refill with OVD before starting for the next incision. Otherwise, you can have long and irregular incisions. Next step is staining of anterior capsule. Adrenaline can be used for adequate pupillary dilatation, and trypan blue 0.06% is used under air to stain the anterior capsule. And after staining, the entire dye is washed out. And you can even press the posterior lip of incision so that the dye comes out of those, and the incisions can also be stained. The next important step is anterior continuous curvilinear capsular axis. Now, pediatric anterior capsule is more elastic, plus the vitreous is firm, and hence the structure of the anterior capsule is this. Now, once you start rexing this thing, there's a high risk of this to extend, of the anterior capsular rexes to extend. So we need to flatten the anterior capsule by inserting a heavy OVD, for example, Helon GV, so that the convex anterior surface can be flattened, so that now we can have a smooth surface and a controlled rexes can be done. We can use image-guided systems, or we can put marks on cornea to ensure the size of around 5 millimeters. And we have seen in clinical practice that this most common morphology of cataract, that is zonular cataract, the central ring is usually around 4.5 to 5 mm. So even if we do not have such systems, we can use the central ring as an approximate guide to the size of our anterior rexes. So again, the same thing, manual CCC is a gold standard. And for cases when we are planning that we are leaving the child aphakic, we can even use vitrectomy for anterior capsulotomy. And in complicated cases, for example, persistent fetal vasculature, where we have a vascularized anterior capsule, the vessels may need to be diathermized or coagulated with a fugose blade so that we can have an opening in the anterior capsule. The next procedure is hydrodissection and hydrodelineation. Now, these maneuvers should be done with viscoelastic still in the eye, because the vitreous upthrust is too high that if you do it after removing viscoelastic, you will not get a hydrocleavage plane. And this is then followed by bimanual cortex aspiration. Now, after the cortex has been aspirated, the next important step is posterior continuous curvilinear capsular rexes. So OVD is injected into the eye, into the anterior chamber, and not in the bag. We do not want the PC to become excessively bowed towards the vitreous cavity. So we want the posterior capsule to be flat, so that approximately 3 to 3.5 millimeter capsular rexes can be done. And again, for sometimes we have PFV patients where we can have vascularized posterior capsule. In those cases, we may need to diathermize the membranes. So coming to the discussion for age limit for PCCC, till 5 to 6 years old, 6 years of age, PCCC with anterior vitrectomy is mandatory without any doubt. For older children, we can have personalized decision for each child. Again, it varies. It is not specific that if a child is 6 years and 2 months, we cannot do a PCCC. It's always a clinician's decision whether the child will. See, the indication is that it is not that if it's a 7-year-old child, if we do not do PCCC, he will not develop VO. He will develop VO. The only idea is that at this age, the child will be cooperative to sit on YAG and get a YAG capsulotomy done. So if the child is uncooperative, the child is having some developmental issues, in those cases, a PCCC with anterior vitrectomy should be done at any cost. Next we have is anterior vitrectomy. This is done to remove the scaffold, again to prevent the formation of VO. So 23 or 25 gauge vitrectomy is used. We use a high cut rate and low aspiration flow rate. We have to do the cutting bimanually around 1 millimeter beyond the margin of PCCC. And you can see with the cutter in the eye down mode, we go beyond the margin of PCCC and cut it all around. Again, after this, we change the hands and cut it similarly in the other direction. The end point is that the margins of the posterior capsule should curl and fall back. And next step is IOL insertion. The donut, this donut is filled with OVD, so that we have space, and the IOL is to be inserted under the anterior capsule. We should inject this as if there is no posterior capsule. If the support of anterior capsule is taken, the IOL goes in the right place. So the simple analogy that sir explains here is the landing plane. So if the direction is down, you'll have a crash landing. You will directly land into the vitreous and everything is gone. But if you direct it under the anterior capsule, it will have a smooth landing. You direct the leading haptic in, and the trailing haptic is then easily eased in, and the IOL is here in place in between the anterior and posterior capsular rexes. The main wound is sutured with 10-0 monofilament nylon. Single suture is usually enough. For elder children, like after 7 or 8 years of age, we can leave this incision sutureless as well. The side ports, usually we need not suture. These can be hydrated, and in the end, the surgery ends with a subconjunctival injection of gentamicin, dexamethasone, and atropine. Now, besides that, there are certain new advancements that have currently come up at our center, that we are using intraoperative OCT for OCT-guided pediatric cataract surgery. There are certain specific advantages. It allows us evaluation of cataractus lens as a whole. We can see the intralenticular changes and then alter our surgical decisions. Opacity, thickening, and duplication of posterior capsule can be better delineated. We can even delineate the Burgess space well, and it can also help us to look at the anatomy of the corneal wound. So this is one of the images where we can see that the IOL is placed well between anterior and posterior capsule. Another image showing a posterior capsule plaque, and it can be seen that the plaque is involving the whole posterior capsule. So this is another case where the clinical picture shows a PC plaque, but on OCT it can be seen that the entire thing is behind the posterior capsule, and posterior capsule is intact. So after rexing the posterior capsule with the forceps, the entire muck can be cleared off, and then we have a regular posterior capsule or PCCC, and IOL can be placed in the bag. Another case where the Burgess space can be delineated. In this shape, as was shown, we have created a small nick and injected Helon in the Burgess space. Now the concave configuration of the Burgess space has now been converted into a convex morphology because of the Helon. So now we have a dome up PC similar to anterior capsule, and now we can create a small can be a technique of placing using bag in the. So we went ahead with anterior vitrectomy and placed the single piece IOL in the bag. Another indication is detecting the morphology of cataract. Now here in the uveum, we can see that the cortical fibers are very compact. And similarly, even in IOCT, we can see that lamellae are very dense. So these dense lamellae are usually very difficult to aspirate with IA. And we have noticed that we had to use phacoemulsification energy in such young eyes also in these specific morphologies. So these decisions can be made preoperatively with the help of IOCT, which helps to streamline the process and fasten the process of surgery. So that's it for the surgical management. There are further complicated cases are not being covered in this IC. The follow-up and post-operative care will be discussed by Dr. Aishwarya. Thank you.
Thank you, Diksha. So basically, she covered up how go about and how to. I think the most important thing is the placement of the patient, because once you got an LM inside, you're not supposed to shake the head. In the adult, you can ask the patient to look up, down, and you can move the head sidewise. Here, once the patient is fixed and covered, you're not supposed to even move the head, not even a chin up and down. So that's one point she mentioned, which is very important. So head position is very important, and eye should be looking straight up inside. And these technologies, which we mentioned at the end, IOCTs and all those, if you have it, it's very good. If you don't have it, I think techniques is what we're discussing. Technologies you can always buy with a cost, right? There's a MasterCard for that. So please pick up the techniques, and if you have any queries, if you have any suggestion, we can talk about that. Technologies, like in the last video, there's certain cataract, even 2, 3, 4 months old kids, in which the lens takes long to aspirate. So lots of fluid goes in, the ring gets tumbled up and down. So if you've done a good UBM, if you find that there's a detachment of the cortical fibers from the capsule from all the side, and there's a ring, which she showed the ring sign, in those one it's best to go 2.2 and go with the phaco handpiece. You don't need to have energy with a minimum, because the opening of the tip is more, so it'll just suck up the lens, and then you can do a bimanual later on. So it'll save you time, and endothelium cells will be protected more. Okay, so once you've done a surgery and everything's gone, at the end of the surgery, we give them an injection with we give an antibiotic, we give a cycloplegic. Atropine also is must in these patients, because next day we see the patients and we can do the refraction. Okay, so now over to